My final build in my Wheel of Time series, for now, is one that was highly suggested in the comment section of my last video. It's this merchant wagon that was inspired by the Way of the Leaf, and it's coming up right now on Tabletop Witchcraft. Hey there, and welcome back to Tabletop Witchcraft. This week I designed a couple different wagons that would be perfect in a merchant caravan or set up in any town square. I'm going to tackle one of those builds this week, and it was inspired by the Way of the Leaf, so it's got some pretty loud colors. It's got a couple LEDs in it, some magnets, and some cast pieces from Hearst Arts molds that really bring it to life. Alright, if you're ready, let's go grab some supplies and let's get crafting. Alright, I'm going to kick this video off by lighting up the Desert Bazaar candle by Firelight Fables. I thought that would go really well with the merchant caravan. And these were inspired by the Wheel of Time, and I designed both of these two separate wagons, but I wanted to put a lot of detail into these, and as I went along, I thought I really should probably just focus on one. If you want to see that one on the right, leave a comment down below, and I'll consider making it later on the channel. Alright, now I got two blocks of 2-inch XPS foam, and I don't want to hot glue these together just yet. You can see I used a little bit of tape because I want the Proxxon to move through that seam freely. If I put hot glue, it would definitely go through, but it would, kind of mess up the burn a little bit on that, and it wouldn't be as crisp, those edges, as I wanted them to be. All you need to do is make a couple breaks in that tape so you can get the wire in there, obviously, and then add a little bit of hot glue, and we're all set. Now the ends might be offset just by a little bit if you can't line it up just right. Not an issue. Shave off about a 1/16 of an inch all around on this and you'll have nice straight edges. Any areas that need to be sanded down, I use some 220 grit sandpaper and it'll have a nice smooth surface. Alright, hopping over to the plans, you can see where we need to cut this. Basically those ends we're not going to need, we just need the top portion of them. That's going to be the extended roof portion on the right and left side of the merchant wagon. And you can see how one side is a little bit longer than the other. Alright, if you take a look at the plans, you're going to see that the very bottom of this, where we're going to put our wheels, it really isn't the same width of the entire body of the wagon. So all I'm doing is being careful, cutting away from myself, and just kind of squaring that up. Want to show these really fine pointed tweezers. Those help a lot when picking out little pieces of glue or whatever from your craft. So as well as these type of tweezers, I recommend having both on hand when you're working. This is a shifting lens window. The door itself, I didn't show how to make it. It's very simple. It's just a very thin rectangular shape, and I used a pen to pretty much just draw in the design that I want. Alright, now this section right here, we're going to mark this out to make the platform for where the miniature is going to stand on the wagon. You can use the plans for this to get it, as close as you can, or you can really eyeball this piece. Now you'll notice that I have a little black bit of marker on the hot wire knife. That's so that right now I'm not going to end up going all the way through to the front side of the wagon and destroy it. Now, when you notice where this hole is, I end up changing this a little bit later in the video. Don't put a hole in it right here. I end up putting it off to the right a little bit and have it offset. It's going to allow for the wiring to kind of fit in a little bit easier and less that you have to cover up later on. Now, you don't see these too often. I can't remember the last time I used these really tiny magnets. It might have been in my blacksmith video. But you want to just put a few in that door just to hold it in place. And inside that compartment, we're going to add our CR2032 battery holder and all our wiring. Alright, now when you go to add all of the detail pieces of the wood around this, you want to make sure to cut a whole bunch. You can see them all there in the background. That way you have the same width board for your entire craft. We got some more shifting lens windows. I just placed those on there, and I'm going to, as you've seen plenty of times on the channel, just score this out with an X-Acto, and then using the clay sculpting tool, you can carve all these pieces out. It doesn't have to be nice and smooth on the inside. we're going to cover all of this up with some Shifting Lands stained glass window sheets as well as some parchment paper. Now I'll put a link up above to my easy LED wiring video. Take a look at that. This is a very simple wiring method with this tool to basically extend the positive and negative on the LED, and we're going to use that to feed through the hole right there. That's the new hole that I put in. We want this to look like a lantern hanging down from the top of the wagon. And I poked another hole in here, so basically we can have 2 LEDs off of one CR2032 battery that are these flashing, flickering LEDs. To make sure they don't pull apart, I'm adding a little bit of solder, and then I'm going to add this heat shrink tubing over the top so I don't have any issues with these sections touching when they're shoved inside of the wagon. Alright, these are the Shifting Lands stained glass windows that I spoke about earlier. All I did was use some tacky glue to stick those onto the back of the window. And I don't even have to worry about the fact that it's pink behind there. You're not going to see it. And that bright color pink is going to really make the stained glass stand out. Now we're going to use those components to make the wheels for the wagon. And I really kind of went through all the stuff, all the crafting supplies I had in my shop, looking for something to make these wheels out of. And I thought the windows worked great, but obviously I had no way of running like an axle through there. So I'm just going to create a section where I can do that using some green stuff. And obviously we need to make 4 of those. Now this is a portion where you're going to want to really take your time so you don't blow a hole through the bottom of that. And a lot of people always wonder, you know, how you mix your Mod Podge with the black paint. You know, do you have to use black or whatever? You can use any color you want to base coat. As you can see, I used white for this, but you can use any color you want for that. Here are some Hearst Arts pieces that I cast quite a while ago. We're going to use those as decorations once we're done. Now the cool thing is once the Mod Podge is hardened, we can then go back with an X-Acto and create all of our timbers around the entire craft, and they really hold their shape well. Alright, I showed this in a previous video. Big fan of this paint mixer. It does a fairly decent job of mixing up all the paint, especially if it's been sitting for a while. Alright, so you can see I started painting the roof a maroon color and quickly realized that's not a great idea over the white. It's going to turn it pink and take a million coats. So what I wanted to do for the base coat was to hit it up with some orange or yellow color, and using my Terrain Dryer 500, it's a little decal I got from Zane Morgan of Zane Morgan Crafts. Check his channel on YouTube. We can dry this quickly and keep moving on because it's going to take a few coats to get decent coverage. I just kept getting darker and darker with my red until I finally used this maroon color and was really happy with it. And I'll tell you, this is one of those crafts where I really felt like I was painting a model and not a piece of terrain. And it was really hard for me to get over the fact that I was using such vibrant colors. So I got to a point where I was a little nervous as to how this was going to look all in the end. But I was happy with this weathering effect. I just used some of this gray color and a bunch of other things like pigments later on in the video that knocked down how bright this yellow and blue really is. Now you want to find a really fine tip paintbrush and just go crazy starting to paint a whole bunch of really cool funky decals over this whole thing. I'm envisioning this to be like a gypsy wagon or a merchant wagon, so yeah, I just kind of went crazy with it. And just be careful how intricate you get, because if you want to mirror these things, that design there, I had to mirror that 4 times, twice in the front and then 1 more time on the right. It was a little tricky. Alright, 24 hours later, our green stuff has cured and we're all set to add these on. And I didn't even glue the wheels on. It was such a tight fit that I just left them like that. Who knows, maybe in the future I'll have to glue them on there. But I did add a little bit of tacky glue to the axle on that to keep that locked in place. I didn't really want the wheels to spin, although they could if you want to. Now I had some of this really cool decorative trim left over from my haunted house video, and I thought that looked really cool on the top, so I obviously just painted some of that up, tossed it on there, and now I'm doing a light wash over pretty much the whole model. This is Agrax Earthshade, but it's more like a 1 to 2 Agrax to water mixture. I want it really light. Okay, time's coming to add all our windows in place. 3 sheets of parchment paper I found was just the right amount to really disperse the light. And it's really cool because now you can really see that stained glass window even when the light isn't turned on. Here's a little bit of pigment powder. We're going to lock that in place with some pigment fixer. Alright, now in my Wheel of Time video for the house I did based on the 2 rivers, I had a bunch of these cool little ornaments on that. That's all I did is same as this. It's just a little dryer sheet and I painted it up. Now we can go to our Hearst Arts cast pieces, and I'm cutting these all into place, just really having fun now decorating the entire outside of the wagon. Alright, and finally, I want to add a little awning that could be pulled out from the side of this caravan if you want to set up shop roadside somewhere. So I had some of this fabric left over from my merchant stand. I thought, absolutely perfect. This will look really cool sitting right next to my merchant stand. I'll put a link up above to that video for you. And all I'm going to do is roll that up on a barbecue skewer, put some twine around it, and hot glue that into place, and we're all set. Okay, I had a blast creating not one, but 3 separate builds from the Wheel of Time. I'd like to revisit it someday, and I probably will for season 2 of the show. Now I want to take just a second to thank all of those that support me through all the various different ways, buying merchandise, supporting me on itch.io, DriveThruRPG, Patreon, as well as thanking those that leave a little extra tip when they purchase my plans on itch.io. I've got no real way of telling you that or thanking you on itch, so I want to take a second and recognize all of you for doing that. Thank you very much. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Visit me on Patreon, a lot of great tiers over there. And don't forget, you can head on over to Firelight Fables Candles, where you can enter TWC10 at checkout, get 10% off your entire order. My channel gets a little kickback, and it's a win-win situation. All right, until next time, I'll see you around.